Hello and welcome to everybody watching the Wednesday show on This Is Ibrox. As always, I'm joined by two fantastic guests. I've had a wee word with them before. I'm going to try and keep Football Manager chat to a minimal, but it will definitely creep in here. And if I hear any of you talking about saves for the past 5 years, you're getting muted. That's it. You're off the pod permanently. But look, I'll start here. How are you doing today, Ian?
I'm good. I don't remember agreeing to that FM thing, but we'll carry on, see how we go.
You need to read the small print of your contract with This Is Ibrox because it's definitely in there. If not, I'm definitely going to have a word with the TII lawyers as well. And Ross, it's we're normally gantry buddies. It's a bit weird being on a Wednesday pod with you. How are you, my man?
Yeah, I'm very good. Yeah, I'm just about over that result of the weekend. I'm sure we might get stuck into a wee bit of that, how we're feeling now about it all. But I'm not too bad.
Good. Glad to hear it. Look, on tonight's show, as always, we're going to talk about the long anticipated return of Rangers to Europa League Thursdays. That's it. It is my favourite, well, I was going to say my favourite day of the week, certainly up there. My favourite days of the week is Europa League Thursdays. We'll have a wee look at the, how do we describe it, wild weekend. I think there's still emotions going on from that. I'll get these two guys' thoughts on it. We'll get a look at our opponents on Thursday as well, see their strengths, their weaknesses. We'll have a chat about some of their key players. We'll have a chat about some of the comments from the pressers there. It was a couple hours ago as well. And then we'll just go through attack, midfield, defence, how we think we're going to line up. Because there's plenty to be talking about, even though there is a bit of a depleted squad. But before we get into tomorrow night's opponents, and we can all start dreaming of that early morning jolt that we all get from Reese in the TII WhatsApp chat where he belts out. I think he must just get out his bed and just pick his phone up and just go straight into it. But we all hate it, but we all love it at the same time. Ian, I'll come to you first. What did you make of that weekend? How are you feeling after
it? Got away with one, I think, is the kind of easiest way to put this. Leaving Ibrox on Saturday, I was one of these guys kind of, we've thrown it away, we've worked so hard, look, we've just handed them it back, given them another title, all this kind of stuff, proper Twitter meltdown style for me. But had a wee thing, thought Hearts could do something. They've obviously gave us a favour there, but it's been so cliche these last few days, but this is a title race. This is what you're going to get. It's the back and forth. It's the good weekend, bad weekend kind of thing. It's going to be 9 more of these, basically, is the way I'm trying to put it now. 9 more cup finals of that kind of cliche again can come in. But I think the big thing for me at the weekend was just the injuries caught up for us, really. Didn't have the quality up front. Got ran ragged by their centre forwards. It's going to happen now and again. Just need to make sure it's a one-off, move on, and hopefully tomorrow night starts us with that positive result train we're going to get back on, and we'll all be fine.
Well, that's the positive result train. I like that. We're not normally this upbeat on a Wednesday. And Ross, I'll ask a very similar question to you. What did you make of that weekend? And I'm just going to ban you from talking about VAR as well.
I think it was just one of those days, to be honest with you. I've seen them a few times, the Rangers, over the years. I think created enough probably on the day to take something from the game. Probably didn't do enough to win the game. If we look at it fairly, I think Motherwell were pretty good value and probably deserved to take something as well. So I think he makes a good point there in terms of injuries. It probably is catching up with us a wee bit at the moment. Having said that, I mean, you look at the Fabio Silva chance in the first half. If that goes in, I think the landscape of the game changes completely. So that was a big moment for me. I just thought of the weekend. I think Rangers' start to the game was really why they didn't end up winning it. I thought the first 10, 15 minutes, they really struggled, considering what we've seen against Hearts the previous week. And I understand you can't play like that every single week. You can't play like that every single game. I understand it's over a season. You're going to have dips. But I just thought the first 10, 15 minutes, they couldn't really deal with Motherwell. Motherwell decided to press them high, keep them penned in, not really let them play. And anytime Rangers get possession of the ball, they turned it over really, really easy. So that was really disappointing. And then I think once we got back to 1-1, it's rightly a penalty. I just thought at that stage, a lot of people have said it's complacency. I'm not really sure if it's complacency. I actually thought it was a little bit of inexperience in the team. Not a lot of these players have been in a title race before. You get the equaliser around the 60-minute mark. You've got 30 minutes of the game to go plus stoppage time. I think in that moment you put your foot in the ball, you reassess. You don't have to win the game the next 5-10 minutes. You try and take the sting out of. I feel we've done the opposite. I feel we were just really rushed in possession, giving the ball away, allowing Motherwell to break on us at every opportunity. And let's be honest, before Motherwell scored their second, they probably should have had one before it. So I think just all around, it was a really disappointing day. The two centre backs as well, they get absolutely hammered the whole day. I mean, the two of them are. I'm big fans of both Connor Goldson and John Souttar, but I just thought the two of them had really, really poor days. And it's just one of those days, I think, where players, there's too many players having a bad day to get a result, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, there was a few things I thought were disappointing, but ultimately, I think you have to look at it as one of those days. And thankfully, the result on the other side of the city went for us. They didn't pick up the 3 points and they stayed 2 points behind. I think that's the way the team and the management staff have to look at it. We're going to hit a bump in the road. They spoke about that. Well, it's happened at a great time, hasn't it? Because they haven't capitalised on it, and that's the way you got to look at it. So dust yourself off, look at it like 9 more games to go, like Ian said, and win those 9 games, you win the league. So I think, yeah, all round, just got to write it off one of those days. Just go off and go again, and we've got a great game to look forward to tomorrow night.
Yes, it is interesting. It's oddly enough, I think psychologically this weekend might be damaging to the others, more damaging to the other side of the city than us. Which I mean, I was pretty low after leaving that game at the weekend as well against Motherwell, and I was convinced that we were going to be a point behind at the top of the league, and thankfully it didn't. But before we move on to the next point, Ian, Ross touched on something there and a question I was going to ask you. And I've heard a lot about it on social media and seen it, and it's that Rangers got complacent. It was the fact that we looked at the games, and on paper the Hearts game is much more difficult than the Motherwell game. Paul McGarrigle here actually says at the weekend we started slow, no urgency at all on our play and slack passing, whereas the Hearts game was the total opposite of that. Did we get complacent? Do you feel that? Or is it just too many injuries, too many players just not showing up at the same time?
I wouldn't go down the complacency route, really. I think the thing for me was just a bit of tiredness and fatigue in the squad, like the comment from Paul there was, as Ross said. It was a slow start. It was a bit cagey. No one really got their foot in the ball at any point for us. I thought you can kind of look back and put some holes in the selection of the team. Like, should Raskin have started? Should Souttar and Goldson have played again after such a heavy week? There's so many possibilities we could have done better there. But I don't think this squad has complacency in them. I don't think Clement would allow them to have complacency in them. I mean, that's just giving him a bit too much credit still. But I think it's just one of those days. Like, teams can lose a game of football. It's going to happen. If, as Ross touched on, if 2 or 3 of our good chances go in, if the Silva shot goes in, if the couple cleared off the line at the end go in, we take something for the game, and suddenly it's a totally different outlook. So I wouldn't go down the complacency route just yet. I mean, yes, it's only Motherwell at home, but Motherwell are third highest scorers in the league. We're going to know this stuff going into the game. They're not a terrible side. They can cause any team problems. We obviously saw them give Celtic a couple of good games this season. I think they got a point and conceded last minute a couple of times as well. So they're no mugs, but I wouldn't go down the complacency route personally.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair comment. I tend to agree with you both there in terms of just put it down to a bad day at the office. For me, too many of our players that have been performing week in, week out, just that are normally 6, 7s were just 5s, and it was just unfortunate that we had too many 5s.
Can I just say as well on that, Kyle, I think you have to give a lot of credit to Motherwell. I think that's twice this season we've seen them at Ibrox, and they've been the best team I've seen at Ibrox from the SPFL this season. The first game they played against us, we ended up winning that game 2-1, but we probably should have lost that day, if we're honest. So, again, this weekend, I thought they were really good value. And we've seen teams come to Ibrox before where once they get possession of the ball, it's very much how can you move it forward as quickly as possible. But Motherwell didn't play that way. Motherwell got the ball down and they played. So it's like you said, it's one of those days for Rangers. But at the same time, I think you have to give some credit to Motherwell. They came with a game plan, they executed it really well, and it shows that Rangers do still have some vulnerabilities that have to be addressed when it comes to the summer, and I'm sure Clermont will be looking at that.
Yeah, there's a couple of good comments coming in here, which I'll read out. Life can be good, and that's not a name I've seen before. So hello and welcome. Life can be good. The team was wrong, needed to change formation. Well, manager said before the game he knows Rangers' shape, and it will be the same no matter what. And yeah, that fair play to Stuart Kettlewell. I think he got his tactics spot on at the weekend. And RFC72 here says team looked out on their feet. One league game before the break, and hopefully a few players back before the run-in. I'm liking all this positivity tonight. That's quite a good point as well. But listen, let's go and move on to what we're all here to talk about. It's just one of those things. We all love it. We all love Thursday nights at Ibrox, and we all love watching the away games on the television, or if we can get to them, we will go. But Ross, I'll come to you here first. Clermont in his presser, he says, no, this game is not a distraction. I want players to win every occasion. You don't create a winning culture if you look to the next game. We are going to go full for this game, then full again at the weekend. We will go like this until the end of the season. Firstly, what did you make of those comments, and what are specifically your expectations for this game?
Yeah, I actually loved hearing that from the manager, to be honest. He didn't really brush it off. It was just very much like, no, this isn't the distraction. I think as fans, sometimes it is easy to look at these games, and especially when you are in a title race or you're going for, Scottish Cups this weekend as well, you look at it and you think, could we really be doing with this? What chance do we really have to make the final? But we've seen a couple of years ago, we do have a chance. And I think a lot of the players within that squad will always look at European football as a great opportunity to progress their own career. So to play on the biggest stage, play against big teams. So I always expect Rangers to go for it regardless of the competition, and I think it's refreshing to hear the manager say the same thing. So I expect a good performance again tomorrow night. You're coming up against a really good side in Benfica. I know they've had a bit of dip in form lately, had a really poor result at the weekend, but I'm sure we'll come on to it lately. Their team is full of good players, top quality players, well outside of our budget, unfortunately. So it's going to be a tough game, but it's refreshing to hear the manager doesn't look at any of these games as, a different level of importance. He's going into it and he wants Rangers to go and make an impact tomorrow. So, yeah, I really like those comments from Philippe Clermont. I thought it was a really good press conference again. I think we continue to say that about the manager, don't we? He's very, very good with the press. He says the things that you want to hear, really, even after the weekend. With the disappointment against Motherwell, he managed to put a positive on it and say, well, this is now an opportunity to see how the players respond to this. So he's got a great opportunity tomorrow night to see how these players respond. So yeah, refreshing again from the manager, and I'm actually really looking forward to this tomorrow night now.
Yeah, Ian, is tomorrow night a bit of a free hit for us?
I would say so, yeah. As soon as the draw was made, my thinking was, the league's the priority this year. Europa's just a bit of fun on the side kind of thing. Benfica, obviously no mugs, so it's a right challenge, but it's a team that I don't think we'd be shocked if we get through this tie, which is maybe being a bit arrogant, but considering what we've done in Europe this last 3-4 years, that's probably our level, if not slightly behind them. But if we did get put out of Benfica, I don't think anyone's getting embarrassed by that kind of thing. As Ross says, they're full of talent, full of experience, full of multi-million-pound worth players. Benfica is the kind of club that I want Rangers to become, in a way. See with the kind of developing youth, giving youth a chance, and then selling on for major profits. That's kind of your bread and butter for a team at our level. So that's the kind of guys that we should be trying to emulate, if anything. And as we're saying, they're a top quality team. So bit of a free hit, as you say. I mean, we're never going to accept getting beat because that's not us. But my hope here is that we go there tomorrow night, get a sort of close result, I'll put it as, and then we've got to play for Ibrox, where we know how good we can be in Europe on these special Thursday nights. So yeah, like Ross, I'm very much looking forward to this.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. I think it is a bit of a free hit, but we're Rangers supporters. We're never going to accept losing, or I think Clermont summed it up perfectly by saying this is the only game that he's we've been the underdog since he's been at Rangers, which I think is fair comment. I was maybe going to leave this for later on, but seeing as it's been asked, Paul McGarrigle here says, Kyle, what did you think when Clement mentioned about the board member saying the cup was more important than the European game? And you know what the brilliant thing about being the host of this podcast is, Paul, is you can just shove that question onto one of the contributors, and I'll ask you both. Ross, what did you make of those comments?
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting, actually. It's not something I expected Philippe Clement to come out with in a press conference to make a point. Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one for me. I didn't really think that would be the outlook from the board in terms of, you know, the finances you get from playing in Europe are massive. So I always thought that the board would look at that as being of the same importance as winning trophies, to be honest, at this stage. So it was interesting to hear about that, but it probably shows you the attitude within the club in terms of not won that League Cup trophy in 12 years, I believe it was, and they obviously put a lot of importance on it this season. And I think we looked at it last season when Michael Beale came in. We all said that League Cup was going to be really important for him, and we've obviously seen how it's turned out for him as a manager at Rangers. So I think it was really important. So I can understand why the board looked at it that way. But again, like I said before, it's really great to hear the manager say, that's not the way I look at things. You know, I'm going into every game to get a result. And that's why we ended up getting a result in Seville, because the team played like they had. You know, a lot of fans, I think, going into that did feel it's going to be really, really difficult for Rangers to progress through the group stage at that point, especially to finish top. And the players went out there and they delivered on the night. And I thought they were amazing on the night, to be honest with you. It was such a good result. So, yeah, it's great to hear that. From the manager, that he doesn't look at these competitions and is any difference of importance. It's just I very much want to win everything, and I think that's the attitude you need to have as a Rangers manager. It's a wee bit unrealistic sometimes, of course it is, but the attitude should be that we should be able to compete at all levels. So it's great to hear the manager backing that up, and yeah, interestingly bring up a board member and all that. That I did think that was a bit strange, but look, he's earned the right.
Because he's not scared anybody.
I know.
He's not scared.
I know. So he's earned the right to say things like this at this point, and he's proven himself, hasn't he? He's, you know, with the results on the pitch, the attitude with the players, the turnaround in form of this season, he deserves to say these kind of things and to back himself up. So yeah, I liked hearing it, and yeah, again, like I said, it gives me more belief going into this game tomorrow night, because I think it's going to be a tough game, right? Benfica have got a lot of quality, but we've seen with Rangers over the years what they can do in Europe. So it's great to hear the manager that's not the way I'm looking at it. I'm not looking at the League Cup as being more important. I just want to win everything. So, yeah, it's good to hear.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. It was pretty refreshing. It's but look, I'll come to you. I asked this question in the chat just there. It's slightly phrased differently, but is tomorrow night's game more important than the game against Hibs at the weekend? I'll get your answer, and then I'll bring up some of the comments in a wee minute.
My only thinking here, and I might be defending the board member a bit here, but we go into Europa League or Champions League, and we're not expected to be like the winner or the finalist or the semi-finalist. Probably go back a couple of phases. We go into the Scottish Cup, in my eyes, as favourites, or at least joint favourites. So if we don't win the Scottish Cup, that's a big loss for the club, for the fans, kind of thing. If we don't win Europa League, I mean, we're not going to lose sleep over it, kind of thing. We're not final maybe, but we're not expected to do so well in that. So I can see the kind of thinking, as daft as it might seem, but if I could only win one tie between the Europa League and the Scottish Cup game, it's going to be the Scottish Cup game. Like I want the domestic treble. It's just what I grew up seeing, wanting, kind of thing. So I would rather dump Hibs out and get tanked off Benfica tomorrow, to be honest, if I'm having to pick one of them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Look, some of the comments here. Tommy from This Is Ibrox. Hello, Tommy. It's nice to see you watching. PC needs to keep standards high, but we all agree title is key. Remember, possibly winner goes through straight into the Champions League group for a few years. Given injuries, etc., keep the tie alive for Ibrox. Robert Binney here says European football is a bonus. Domestic dominance is a priority. Oh, I like that word, domestic dominance. Paul McGarrigle says we are Rangers. We want it all. Hugo Bear, simply the Hibs game is more important. Hibs are never more important than anybody, but the Hibs game is more important. And Cubby Gubster here says Europe is a bonus this season. Domestically is where it's at. Injuries again are worrying. Let's go and look at our opponents. for tomorrow night, Ross, I'll start with you. Benfica, a team we've heard, and I'm sure Fabio Silva and I'm sure Clement both said this in their press conferences, that they have doubled the budget. So that's obviously something that's been going on behind the scenes. They finished third place in their Champions League qualifiers. They beat Toulouse in the previous round. I've no idea what we're calling that previous round, by the way. We weren't in it, so I'm just not that interested. But it's a team, they like to press, they like to utilise their fullbacks. How are you expecting Benfica to play against us tomorrow, Ross?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one because they're, like I said before, they're full of quality. I mean, you could list off a lot of their players. Angel Di Maria is the one that stands out, isn't it, in terms of the level he's played at, all the trophies he's won. Just recently won the World Cup as well. So, clearly a player of quality that they've managed to bring back. But yeah, look, I think their manager's Roger Schmidt. I think he wants to play that kind of high pressing football that every manager seems to want to play now when it comes to modern day football. So I'm expecting to see that tomorrow night. I read something very interesting on Twitter actually not long before I came on about when Di Maria is in the side, they can't press as effectively, but the quality of player that he is, he only takes a small chance and he'll grab a goal out of it. So that's probably what we need to look at tomorrow. But yeah, I'm expecting a strong start from Benfica. I'm expecting them to come out with a lot of intensity. They didn't really have the performance in the last, I think it's the playoff round it's called. I'm not really sure, but I'll go with playoff round against Toulouse. So they'll be wanting to bounce back. Of course, the 5-0 defeat of the weekend as well to Porto's not great. But you look at them in terms of this season, they're only 1 point off the top. So it's not like they're having a disastrous season. Like you said, they finished third in the Champions League, so they're obviously a quality team. So I'm expecting to see that tomorrow. But yeah, some of their players like Di Maria, Joao Mario, Joao Neres, Rafa Silva, they just signed Marcus Leonardo from Brazil as well, David Neres. So they've got a lot of quality throughout the team, and I'm expecting to see that tomorrow. But it's not actually when I seen the draw, it wasn't one that wasn't really bothered by it, to be honest with you. I wanted either an easy draw or I wanted a glamour tie, and I wouldn't really consider them a glamour tie because we've played them a few times before. So it's one of those kind of tricky ties that I would expect Benfica to be strong favourites in, but I don't think that Rangers go into the game with it's like an impossible task. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it tomorrow, but I think it's going to be tough. And I think you always see in these European games that a small mistake you can be punished for. We've seen that over the years. It doesn't take a lot for these teams to take advantage, and I'm going to expect that tomorrow night. So Rangers have got to be brave. They've got to try and play the football they've been playing under Philippe Clement. They've got to try and be positive in possession, but of course at the same time they're going to have to be wary of Benfica's threat, and there's a lot of them. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting tie, Kyle.
Yeah, and Ian, I'll ask the exact same question to you. How are you expecting Benfica to line up to start? I think a great, how to say this, advantage of Rangers, especially in the past few years, is we have been underestimated by virtually everybody, I think, that we play in terms of when we get to these rounds. Benfica, I think, was certainly a team that underestimated us. I think was it 2020 we played them in this sort of COVID season. But yeah, what are you expecting from Benfica, a team that likes to press and use their fullbacks? If that sounds similar to anybody,
Yeah, it's a tricky one because, as Ross said, they've got talent throughout that team. Guys that are young and developing are going to be sold for like 50, 60 million. That centre back Antonio Silva's linked with Real Madrid, linked with Man U. He's going to move on. Neves in the middle looks about 12 years old, but he's a great footballer. But there was a comment there from RFC 72 that said that against Toulouse, they didn't look great. They needed 2 penalties to get through that tie as well. So I think it is so vital that we stay in the tie after this first game. Like if there's a 1-goal defeat, we can live with that. A draw is great because, again, I watched them in Toulouse. They were really poor. Toulouse hit the bar, hit the posts, had corner upon corner, had so many chances that they could have equalised late on. And I think if that goes to extra time, looked like they were going to put them out. So maybe that was just on the night they were poor. We saw on Saturday, that can happen to us as well. But I think one of the kind of backwards positives we've got here is that we don't even know how Rangers are going to line up here. We don't know what formation, what shape, what players. So Benfica aren't going to have a clue, kind of thing. And they probably will underestimate us. They'll look at a few guys in their team who they might not have heard of before. There's probably some Benfica podcast in another world right now, looking at our 11 going, who's that guy, who's that kid, kind of thing. So they're going to be fancying a comfortable win, I would think. So we can play on all that. I saw the same post that Ross was talking about as well. So if they do line up with what's expected, with Di Maria in the team, with Joao Mario, who was at West Ham for a few years, these guys aren't going to press us. They're going to be sitting off waiting for the ball to do something. So if we can get in their face a little bit, I'm thinking sort of do John Sterling here, try and ruffle a few feathers for 90 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't see a reason we can't go into this and, like I say, take something back to Ibrox. It's a draw if worst kind of case scenario, and every chance we can do them at Ibrox. So I mean, like I say, when this tie came out, I was thinking, if we get put out, it's fine. It's big, scary Benfica. But I'm now sort of night before getting that kind of twitchiness about me that we can do them. So let's do it.
Oh man, there's so much confidence and so much positivity going about this podcast tonight. It's but I just can't get over the thought of that there's this is Benfica somewhere being recorded over in Portugal, and it's just three guys just talking about how good Roof is for about 30 minutes. which is, by the way, is about to be us in about 5 minutes. So so there we go. But Ian, I'll stick with you for my next point here. You kind of alluded to it a wee bit there. Will the fact that they got absolutely battered off a Porto, I've seen the highlights of the game, and that was a doing that was a 5-0 going on 10-0 type victory. And the other thing I saw a lot of on Twitter today was that apparently their manager Roger Schmidt, there's been sort of behind the scenes crisis talks. If he loses this game or draws this game against Rangers, he could be out the door. That's something that's been heaped at us a lot the last few years, is the mentality, the psychological side of things. Is this a good time to be playing Benfica? Do you think those will play any sort of factors into tomorrow night's game?
It must. Yeah, I mean, they must be a bit low in confidence because, as you say, they get battered off Porto. They get beat off Sporting the weekend before. Again, there's no harm in that kind of thing. Sporting are a great team as well. But the little sort of good thing for me here is that, as Ross said as well, they're a point behind in their league. So you've got to imagine that they're maybe looking at the league as being a little more important than Europa League just now. So maybe that does see a couple of the star names get rested tomorrow night, thinking it's only Rangers kind of thing. Again, you say that they got beat 5-0 and battered 5-0 the other day, but that was with 10 men as well. So you've got to imagine some of those players are going to be knackered after that game, getting ran ragged. I think it was Otamendi that gets sent off, if I remember right.
Yep.
He's a kind of known hothead. If we can ruffle him up again, that could be another kind of target area to go for. So there's certainly a chance for us, at very least, in all this. And again, on paper, there's no better time to play a team who have just been battered and then beating off their other rivals as well. So it's all looking very positive yet again.
Yeah, I seem to remember or have a distant memory of a certain Colombian that played up top for us having a right good ding dong Otamendi the last time. But listen, it's your two favourite part of the podcast. I was going to, look at some of the big players like your Otamendi's, like your Angel Di Maria's, but you two are going, no, let's use some of this football knowledge that we've gained over the last 10 years for Football Manager to talk about some young players, some players that you guys might have signed in 2014, 2016 saves or whatever it is. And Ross, I'm going to come to you here first. A guy, Rafa Silva, he was at Benfica the last time we played there, likes to play, as a sort of second striker. This year, I wrote down 41 appearances, 17 goals, 14 assists. Talk about him and what you know, and how much of a threat is he going to be to us tomorrow night?
Yeah, well, he's absolutely flying this season, so that's certainly something we've got to be aware of. Someone quite a dynamic player that doesn't really mind roaming around the park, which is something I think you've always got to be aware of in these European games, because movement's such a big factor, isn't it, in terms of creating havoc. So I think that's something we're going to have to be aware of. Really quick as well, fast across the ground. So look, he's going to be dangerous. I think he's probably the main danger at the moment. I think when you have a player like Angel Di Maria, you've always got to be aware of him. But I think Silva's been playing kind of central in that Benfica team at the moment, and I think clearly the numbers he's been bringing back this season shows he's a big risk for us. So yeah, we're going to have to be all over him. I don't know if maybe Clement will look at our kind of midfield and kind of pack it a little bit more tomorrow night. Does it mean you play a Lundstram and a Sterling in there potentially, that you've got that protection in front of the back line to maybe deal with that? I'm not sure. It's going to be interesting to see because, of course, we don't really have a lot of options at the moment. Unfortunately, I feel like I say that all the time about Rangers right now, but we don't have a lot of options. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. But Rafa Silva is definitely one to look out for. But I think I rhymed off quite a few names earlier. There's quite a lot. That Ian mentioned them earlier that he does look about 16, this João Neves, but he's flying as well for them this season. And like I said, they come with a lot of quality, a young quality, but they've got a lot of experience as well, which I always think, aside, goes a little bit under the radar. An Angel Di Maria or a Rafa Silva, they've been around for a while, even Joao Mario as well. So that's something we've got to be aware of. But yeah, I always like playing these European games, right? Because of course I want Rangers to win the tie, but I do enjoy watching other teams as well and their quality. Like I like seeing these players come to Ibrox. You get to see them firsthand. Of course, I'm hoping you send them back and they've been on the end of a doing, right? It was the same. You look at that Borussia Dortmund team that came a couple of years ago. Jude Bellingham was the best player in the park. He was unbelievable. Yeah. You can see why he's at Real Madrid now, right? But he still lost, and that's what I'm looking forward to. So that's why I enjoy all these European games. You come up against these teams, there is a lot of quality, and you can appreciate that. But as long as Rangers get the result, I don't really care. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But he will certainly be a threat tomorrow night.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Big Philippe keeps him quiet up top. Ian, the next player that I want to identify in that team that's had a really, really good season for them, Antonio Silva. Already been linked with some big money moves. I've seen when I was doing a wee bit of research on him, Man United have been linked with him. Obviously, Chelsea have been linked with him. Chelsea are linked with every single good player that's about 18 to 20. But he's virtually played nearly every game this season, lining up with Otamendi and the centre-back partnership. He's really key to the way they attack, good at playing quick balls out, breaking the lines, and has got a bit of a... anytime I get to use this phrase, I always do it, but he's got that kick straight out the 1 o'clock gun that he can just punt up to Rafa Silva up front. How dangerous is this guy going to be from an attacking and a defensive point of view?
Yeah, you said a lot of it. Great player. He's only 20 and he's like the first pick for that Portugal defence now as well. So, I mean, that's insane. I mean, I think he broke in that team when he was like 18. If you compare our 18-year-olds to a guy like that, you're looking at like Leon King, who I think is even older than that now, and he's nowhere near kicking a ball for us. So just kind of shows the levels that we're at here. Again, you touched on it. He's been linked with Man U, Chelsea, Real Madrid. He's going to be the next like one off the academy line at Benfica, which is just never ending, which goes back to why I think we need to try and copy them for everything they do. So my worry with this is that he looks to be world class. Dessers does not quite look to be world class from what I've seen so far. So my big hope in all of this is that we sort of use Silva and our Silva to try and like homegrown back where he came from, try and prove a point a little bit, because obviously he moved for 35 million to Wolves, I think it was. Never really kicked on. That's got to be quite negatively looked at in Portugal. So hopefully he's bang up for it, and it's a bit of a ding-dong battle between the two Silvas there, and hopefully we come out on top.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of Silvas on that pitch tomorrow night, but yeah, it's going to be brilliant watching it regardless, and definitely something we'll come on to talk about, because I think Fabio's one of these guys that's got a bit of a point to prove, and I think I always love it when players have got a bit of a point to prove when they go somewhere that they've previously played with a new club. Right, before we get talking on to Rangers, the squad and stuff like that specifically, it's just a more sort of general point, Ross, and I was thinking about this today, but how important and how glad are you that Clement made the changes that he did to the Euro squad in terms of bringing in Ridvan, bringing in Diomande, and bringing in the aforementioned Fabio Silva?
Yeah, I think it was crucial, especially Ridvan Yilmaz, the way he's been this season. I think most of us will expect him to start tomorrow night. I think we've seen in previous European games, you would maybe expect a Borna Barisic to come in for this one, but I think the way that Ridvan's been playing, and ultimately the way Borna Barisic performed at Kilmarnock last week, I don't think many fans would be happy to see him come into the starting lineup tomorrow. And I'm pretty sure Philippe Clement will look at that as well and probably know he's got one left back really to pick from right now in terms of form. So yeah, that was huge. I think Diamonde has probably surprised most people in terms of how quickly he's been able to adapt. I think you've seen it very early on that this is a very, very good footballer and will not look out of place. And when it comes to Europa League, like I expect him to play tomorrow night. I expect him to start the game, which I don't think I would have said that a month ago when we signed him. I would have been like, no way he's going to play in this one. He'll just be in the squad, but I would expect him to play. So again, that's a massive one for me. And yeah, Fabio Silva, we touched on already. Probably will have a wee bit of a point to prove. I think he was at Benfica in their academy for a couple of years. I think I heard him mention that earlier. So he'd said they had a good relationship with the club and things, and they wished them all the best. But, you know, as always the same, when you're going back to a club you've been at before, you want to show that maybe they were right, maybe they were wrong to let you go, whatever. I don't know in terms of how that, you know, he departed. But yeah, I think it's massive. Philippe Clement didn't. He had some other options, didn't he? He had like a Leon Balogun he could have brought back in, but he obviously feels he's got enough back there. And yeah, I think we'll see the benefit of that squad, you know, fleshing out a little bit. Cortez was the one, of course, that was on the edge. You know, I think a lot of people felt he could have maybe came in, but of course he's now picked up that injury, so it doesn't really matter anyway. But yeah, I think the three that he selected was probably the three at the time that I would have selected, and I think it makes us stronger in the European front. So I think it was the right decision.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. It was one of those moments when I was like looking at things, I was just like, oh my God, thank God Clement has made those changes, because if they thought, even you saying Borna Barisic potentially lining up for us in a European game like this, I mean, if memory serves me right, I might have had a couple of assists the last time we played Benfica when we were away, but nah, just not for me in a game like this. But look, we'll start through this.
Kamara strike from the edge of the box, Kyle. I just want you to remind you of that's exactly what that game I remember. Cut inside, blasted it was right foot into the bottom left corner. That's all you need to remember for that game.
Yeah, but the thing about it is that would be weird for everybody else, but you remind me of Glenn Kamara goals virtually every single day of my life. So there you
Scored
go.
A few good ones as well, didn't he?
Yeah. yeah, he certainly did. That's a pod coming to you soon. It's just Glenn Kamara goals that Ross is going to do. It's going to be about 5 minutes long because he hardly scored any, but when he scored, they counted. Look, right, Ian. So we're going to do something that we don't normally do in this Is Ibrox, and we're going to look at something logically. We're going to start from the top, go to the midfield, go to the back, and I'm not even going to talk about the goalkeeper. But again, Ross might be the type of guy that chucks Robbie McCrory in there just to throw my agenda off. But Fabio Silva, he was a guy that spoke to the media. I bet he was loving it. The fact that he got to go back to his old club, probably, you know, put his hand up for this one to see some of the guys that used to work with in the past. He said, I've played with some players from Benfica. It's always nice to see familiar faces, but the most important is Rangers, and he's damn right. How important do you think a guy like Fabio Silva could be tomorrow, and how do you expect us to line up in the attack?
So, on most pods, I talk about 5 at the back. And of course, I would look at playing 5 at the back. I know we're starting at the top, but it has to lead there. So I'll be playing both Silva and Dessers. Not like Silva on the left, not Silva in behind. I'd play them both right up there. Thinking they've got, as we've talked about, a great couple of centre-backs, mixture of experience, youth, pace, power. I think they two would bully any lone striker that we play up there. I know Dessers doesn't always get bullied, but I think that needs to be a 2-on-2 kind of dynamic for us to have a sort of decent attack going kind of thing. And I think it works well with Silva's movement, kind of coming a bit deeper, but leaving Dessers up there. It means you've always got a kind of focal point sitting there. So I would have both of them side by side, and then 20 minutes to go, that's where Kemar Roof comes in, steals the show, we all go home happy. Easy.
Listen, I'd absolutely, I'd be delighted if that was the case, to be honest with you. Ian brings me on to a nice point there, Ross. Like, how do you think we'll line up? Do you agree with that? Do you think we'll go with Dessers and Silva up top?
I think we'll go with Dessers and Silva in the park, but I don't think it'll be a 2 up top. No, I don't. I can't see the manager changing from the system that he's been playing lately. I understand it comes down to options again. I think he spoke about that in his press conference in terms of do you change the system, or do you put players into roles that they're not maybe familiar with? And I think he might go with the latter, just because, you know, the team have been used to playing this system now, this 4-2-3-1. They're very much used to it. They'll understand, regardless of whether they weren't playing their role last week, they'll understand how that role's supposed to work when they're put into it. So I think he'll stick with the same system, to be honest with you, and he'll just plug people in. So I won't ruin my midfield and things, but I would expect to see Dessers up front, and I think Silva will play off the left. That's what I expect to see tomorrow, just because he came on there during the at the weekend. Again, I'm not really a fan of him out there, to be honest with you. I don't really think that's his position. I think he's a striker, but again, like I said, it comes back to you're putting players into roles that, okay, they're maybe not the best in, but it fits the team overall in terms of the system you're looking to play. So that's what I would expect to see. I agree with Ian. I expect to see them both in the park. Probably, again, it comes down to options. You know, we're pretty bare when it comes to attacking options, so that's why I would expect to see them both. I'm just sitting praying that one of them does not pick up an injury. Because if one of them picks up an injury, we are in trouble. Yeah, big trouble. So, look, we're kind of forced into it at the moment that they both need to play. But yeah, I'll certainly be sitting with my fingers crossed tomorrow night, hoping that neither of them pick up an injury, and hopefully we can bring that tie back to Ibrox.
I just you've just put the fear of God in me by even saying that. But speaking of injuries, I cannot believe it's March and it's 2024. And I'm still going to ask this question, but Ross, I'll come to you first on this one. Kemar Roofe, could he be a potentially important player in a game like tomorrow, given the fact that you've both said, and I agree with you, I think we will start with Dessers. I think we will start with Silva. Couldn't tell you in the last 10 games since either of those guys have been playing when either of them lasted 90 minutes, to be honest with you. So is Kemar Roofe going to be important? And listen, he's a guy that scored a few screamers. I mean, you're talking about Glenn Kamara scoring screamers and important goals. Some of the goals that Kemar Roofe has scored in Europe, even in our last game, scored the goal to make it 3-2 against Betis. Will he play a part tomorrow?
Oh. Well, I think if Kemar Roofe's fit and available, then I think he has to play a part with the squad options we've got at the moment. He came off the bench at the weekend and wasn't really able to impact the game. I think that you would expect from Kemar Roofe in terms of getting into those areas. Of course, there's that one that he put on his Instagram where he's obviously clearly believing he should have had a penalty. But yeah, I think when Kemar Roofe is fit until he leaves Rangers, he is someone that can grab a result for us. He has scored a lot of important goals over the years. And yeah, you were right to bring up the goal that he scored in Betis a couple of months ago to bring us through. So look, the thing is with Kemar Roofe, the way I would probably look at it from now until the end of the season, I would probably just sit him down and say, look, you're probably not going to start any games because that's usually when he picks up his injuries, right? So I'd probably just say, I just want you to keep yourself fresh and we can bring you off the bench with 25, 30 minutes to go in games and you can try and grab us a goal. And that's what I expect to see tomorrow. I don't expect to see Silva and Dessers play, but both of them play 90 minutes. It won't happen. I would expect to see Kemar Roofe come off the bench. And I think if you are able to create opportunities around the box, Kemar Roofe is someone that can grab you a goal. It's always the thing that I've always said about Kemar Roofe. Sometimes he's not really in the game as much as you would like him to be. I know he played under Gerrard, where he played in one of those kind of 10s behind the striker and he was dropping in and getting involved a lot. Not seen as much of that over the last couple of years, probably because he's been injured most of it, right? Let's be honest. But in terms of his play style, he's kind of adapted it and he's someone that's just his movement, his instinctive movement around the box. I don't think anyone else has that in our team. I don't even think like a Danilo when he's fit, I don't even think he has that. This is something that Kemar Roofe understands where he needs to be around the box to get a chance and grab a goal. And I think having someone like that in your team is always pivotal if they're available. So, and I think that's what a lot of Rangers fans felt after the January transfer window. We needed someone like that. We needed someone with Kemar Roofe's goal scoring ability, but we needed them to be fit and available, and that's kind of the problem we've got at the moment. So yeah, look, if Kemar Roofe's fit, I expect him to play a part, and he's always someone that can grab you a goal. And it's just to say on it, I'm sad the way his Rangers careers went because he's such a good footballer. It's just such a shame that he's not been able to keep himself fit, and he will move on this summer. So yeah, let's hope he can score some important goals before the end of the season and take us to that Europa League final again. That would be amazing, wouldn't it? So yeah, I'm dreaming big now. You've got me talking about this. I'm dreaming big. But yeah, Kemar Roofe can always play a part if he's fit, Kill.
I cannot believe I've just went from injured Kemar Roofe, scored against Betis in the last round, and you're going, he's going to score the winner in the Europa League. That's the type of pod I like. Look, Ian, I'll come to you next year. Maybe give away the sort of rest of your team, I suppose, with this next bit, or maybe it will give away the rest of your team, is what I mean. But the wide players, you've already got Dessers and Silva up top. Who have you got out wide? Because I'm fascinated to know here who you're sticking out in the wings.
No one is the quick way to put that. My back five is sitting as a back five, but I'd have Ridvan and Tav obviously as like wing backs, if you will, kind of trying to get forward when they can, sitting in when they need to, kind of thing. My midfield basically is Lawrence in behind Dessers and Silva, and then I don't have Diomande in this team, and I'll let that in for a minute. I have Raskin beside Lundstrom. Before anyone comes at me for Raskin, I know he was awful at the weekend, didn't know where to be, couldn't make a pass kind of thing. But Raskin's best games for us, in my opinion, were Hibs away and Servette away. And I think, was it qualifying maybe? I can't remember what it was. But that game, he was clear man of the match because his job in that game was close people down, close them down, move the ball on. It wasn't like dictate play. It wasn't make the fancy passes. Wasn't get up the pitch. It was literally just close people down and hassle people. And I think for the kind of team that we're playing here, we've mentioned Joao Mario, Neres, Di Maria, Rafa Silva. These are guys that can hurt you on the ball. So we need to have someone that runs at them and just shuts down spaces. And I think that's Raskin to a T. And we know he's out of form. We know he's not the Raskin he was a year ago. But I just think that suits us more than what Diomande would bring to us in this game from the start anyway. Obviously, if it gets to like half an hour to go, Diomande's a great player to bring on, which I think is quite key here because we're not going to have a lot of the ball. We're going to tire quite quick, considering the week we've just had, the games that we're in the sort of slog of. You're going to need good quality coming off the bench. We talked about Ruth, obviously, up front. I think we need a midfielder of like class that can come off the pitch, come off the bench. And that's what I'd want Diomande to be in this game. So yeah, I have Lundstrom, Raskin, and then Lawrence, just sort of a bit more advanced than those two. That's my midfield, and I'll accept the hate that the comments are no doubt going to throw at me for that one.
Listen, I don't think it's too bad, but I'm going to read this one out. Yeah, definite blue card for you there, Ian, because that's a shocker leaving Diomande out, the star player. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, Ross, I'll come to you next. Ian's talked about the sort of central area of the pitch there. He's not going for wingers. So I'll ask you who your sort of central, midfield is. And yeah, have you got Diomande in your squad?
He's in the squad.
Definitely
He's in the squad.
He's in the squad.
Yeah, I should say the starting 11. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got Diomande in my team. I think we've seen now over the last couple of weeks that in terms of technical ability, he's probably one of the best actually in terms of our midfield. And I think you need someone like that in European games. And I know this is so funny that I'm going to bring this point up now, and you probably know where I'm going with this, but this is why I always loved Glenn Kamara for us through the years in Europe, because he's someone that could put his foot on the ball, hold off opposition in terms of pressing them, and he was able to get out and he was able to play a pass forward. Or you get what I mean, right? You need players that in European games that are brave with the ball. And I think Diomande looks like someone like that to me. He looks like someone that's willing to get on the ball. He'll take a nice little touch if he needs to. He'll flick it on if he needs to. He's also willing to run with it. So Diomande is one I expect to play. I think he'll go with the same system as usual. So I expect Diomande to play in the 10 behind Dessers. He'll play Silva off the left. I think he'll play Dujon Sterling on the right again. Just in terms of defensive attributes, in terms of that side is Angel Di Maria. So I would imagine that side is probably a lot of the side they're going to try and play down. And then I think I'm actually with Ian in this one. I think he'll play Lundstrom and I think he'll play Raskin in midfield. I expect to see those two tomorrow night. Raskin's obviously not played as well lately. Looks to be rushing things quite a lot, and sometimes you get that if you're not playing a lot of football. When you come in, you kind of start trying a wee bit too hard. You start trying to play the passes that aren't really on because you're trying to make an impact, and I think that's kind of went against him. But I have to say, the weekend, I didn't actually think Raskin was bad, to be honest with you, but I thought he was the right player to go off in terms of the state of the game and the change that we needed, and I thought Tom Lawrence was the right person to bring on. But that's who I expect to see in midfield. That Ian made a really good point there in terms of the European game away in Servette. He was really, really good that night. You don't get as much time with the ball in Europe, and it is about kind of getting possession and moving it quick, and I think that's what Raskin's good at. So, yeah, that's what I expect to see tomorrow night. I'm expecting to see a very similar system, like I said, and I think he'll bring him back into the midfield for this one.
Yeah, listen, I don't know if I agree with you both there. I just think Raskin's been absolutely... Oh, no, I just said Raskin, didn't I? That's because I've been hanging about you far too much there. Raskin's been too busy. And listen, I'll accept the club fine for that one later on. But in one of the most American phrases I think I've ever heard in my life, Cliff Renfrew here says, choking on my cheeseburger in Los Angeles, starting Raskin. Why? And yeah, I'm dead. I'm actually fascinated that neither of the two of you have gone for Big Dujon Sterling in the centre of that midfield. I think it'll be Dujon, Sterling, and Lundstrom if McCausland is fit. I know he took a bad one at the weekend, but I think he'll start McCausland and Silva up with Dessers up top, Lawrence sitting just behind, and then oh God, I nearly said Raskin there with Dujon, Sterling and Lundstrom. But Ian, I'll come to you next. I suppose you've given the game a wee bit, but you're saying you're going for a back five. You've already talked about Ridvan, who I think I'll be stunned if there's any disagreement across the board who should start at left back. Same goes for right back. Who's your three central defenders?
So you thought Raskin was a big one. To tell you about Ben Davies coming in here. I'm not. So Ben Davies is not make my starting 11. So I'm just going to put that flame out straight away. I have Sterling in a back three, which is one of the rare positions I don't think he's played for us yet. So, just ticking another box for him. But I just think having him there, being a bit of a rogue. So you've got like Suter and Goldson there, and Sterling just sweeping stuff up, just battering into people, just booting the ball away kind of thing, just trying to tidy things up. And it also gives you that flexibility that if game's 10, 15, 20 minutes in and it's not going right, it's the shape's all wrong. Obviously, a big change to make going to a brand new formation in what's probably our toughest game of the season so far on paper anyway. It lets you have that flexibility to just go, right, let's revert to type here. Let's put Sterling right wing, sort of copy Ross's team really, but it gives you that player in there that can just make a big change without having to go at the bench so soon kind of thing. But yeah, as that comment says, Sterling's fine on the ball. He played in a back three, I think, most of his career up until he came to us. He played a full season at Stoke there, so he's well versed to that role. And I just think if I'm playing a back five, sort of touched on it, Ben Davies is too cold to come in at this point. So I have finally given up that he's going to make it at Rangers. I'm waving my flag on that one. He's done. He's not going to come into this kind of game. Sterling just ticks a lot of the boxes that I'd be looking for. A little bit Walter Smith type in my tactic here, just sort of playing for the 0-0, play for the draw, keep the score down, so that Ibrox we can go a bit more attacking. But I think Sterling, Goldson, and Suter has a nice balance. They're all good on the ball, pretty commanding. They weren't on Saturday, obviously, but let's just hope they were eyes on this game kind of thing. I think that team has a decent balance about it. And obviously Butland and goal. Yes, I'm not playing McCrory.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I can see where you're coming from, and this is a controversial point, and I'll say this. I don't know if I should be saying it. I don't think I would freak out if we did go to a back 5-3, whatever you want. If Ben Davies did come in, I don't think I'd be freaking out as much as what other Rangers supporters would be. But anyway, that's a story for another time. Ross, your defensive setup, is it just pretty obvious this one? Are you keeping Suter in there from the weekend, or are you putting Dujon Sterling back there?
Nah, I'm not putting Dujon Sterling at centre back. No, I can't get on board with that one. I was lucky enough to be at Auchenhowie the day that he had his first kind of interview in the summer, and he was asked whether he played centre back, and it was very strong. Like, I'm not a centre back. I don't play centre back. So
just everywhere else, it turns out.
Well, yeah, look, I think now if you asked him, he would say, look, I'll play anywhere for Rangers, doesn't matter, I'll do a job. But I just always think back to that point where someone says, oh, you got experience playing centre back. There's like, no, don't play centre back. So I don't expect to see that. I know Ian will push for a three at the back for as long as possible when it comes to Rangers, but Not that I disagree with a lot of the points that Ian's made in terms of the setup and what it gives you. 3 at the back, I just don't expect to see it. So yeah, I'm a very boring answer. I expect to see the same back 5 we see at the weekend. Button the goals, Tavernier, Goldson, Suter and Ridvan. Again, we don't have a lot of options, to be honest with you. So that's just what I expect to see for this one. I don't expect to see any major surprises when it comes to the defence. And the thing I would say on the kind of back 3, and I understand it, and in terms of building out when you've got possession, sometimes it's good to have an extra man, but Lundstrom kind of gives you that. Lundstrom drops in usually and makes it a 3. So if he drops in and makes it a 3, Diamande, if he's playing as a 10, can drop in with Raskin, and like, so you can still have the kind of same build-up pattern regardless of where your players are. So yeah, that's what I expect to see in defence. No surprises, Gail. No surprising answers here, unfortunately.
No, I think that's fair enough. Look, I'll just get some of the viewers' comments up on who they think should be starting. Ali Quinn here says Butland, Tav, Goldson, Suter, Davies, Ridvan, Lunny, Lawrence, Jack, Wright, Dessers. Big Phil told me in advance. There's no Diamande, so that lineup's incorrect. We've got Pete Lawrence here saying Butland, Yilmaz, Goldson, Suter, Silva, Lundstrom, Sterling, Diamande, Silva, Lawrence, and Dessers. I think Silva's playing twice there, so that's fantastic. But yeah,
he's that good.
Yeah, listen, let's hope he has a game like that tomorrow. Lawrence right and Silva left, which I think was not too far off of what, or maybe Lawrence in the wing. By the way, that's a position I didn't even think I'm playing. But by the way, we could see that Diomande sitting in that 10 role with Lawrence pushed out wide. But this is the beauty of it. We don't know how we're going to play. So how the hell are Benfica know what we're going to play? Paul McGarrigle says Butland, Tav, Goldson, Suter, Ridvan, Sterling, Lunny, Diomande, Lawrence, Silva, Dessers, smash and grab 2-1. And your stooge in the audience here, Ian, RFC 72, he's agreeing with you. A 5-3-2, Tav, Sterling, Goldson, Suter, Yilmaz, Ryan Jack, again, a player that I didn't even think of. I'll be stunned to see him coming out of the cold, given his injury history. Dio, Lawrence, Dessers, and Silva. But look, I think that just about wraps up tonight. But before we go, I'll just get a score prediction off of both of you. Ian, I'll come to you first.
0-0.
Oh,
absolute
wow.
warfest. Just nothing happens. 0-0, back to
When you said you were doing the whole Walter Smith philosophy, you weren't joking, man, eh?
Yeah, I'm saying back 5. It's really a back 10. Just see this one out.
I don't know if I could cope with that, man, to be honest with you. And Ross, what's your thoughts on it? Score.
Yeah, I'm going to go for a 2-2 in this one. I think there'll be goals in it. So exactly the opposite of what you're saying there in terms of Warfest. I reckon it will be probably a similar game to what we've seen the last time we played Benfica over there. I think both teams will just go for it, and I expect to see goals, especially with them conceding 5 at the weekend. Not exactly great defensively at the moment, are they? So I reckon Rangers can take advantage of that. So 2-2, bring them back to Ibrox next week and progress to the quarter-final.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree there. Fun enough, that's what I've got written down on my bit of paper as well. 2-2. So we'll end it on a bit of a positive note. A couple of the guys here is Paul McGarrigle here says 2-1, and he said Dessers and Silva. I would love the pair of them to grab a goal. Life can be good. He's gone a bit more, even more negative than what Ian has, and he said 2-1 Benfica. Again, if you're looking at it, on paper, you would possibly take that back to Ibrox, knowing how special Europa League Thursdays are under the lights at Ibrox. But listen, that just about wraps it up. I just want to say thank you to both guests for joining us tonight. Thank you very much, Ian, despite sort of positive and highs and lows in that one, I would say, Ian.
Got to mix it up, don't you?
That's it, exactly. And Ross, thanks very much to yourself as well.
Thanks, mate. Enjoyed that, and let's hope Rangers get the result tomorrow.
That's it. And thank you to everybody tuning in and watching. I'm sure there will be a post-match reaction tomorrow night. I'm not sure who's doing that. Are you doing that, Ross?
No, I think it's Craig and Kieran tomorrow.
Okay. Well, everybody, hopefully that's a good one. We've got a good result to talk about then. But take care, and we'll see you all again soon.